Greetings everyone in IT2. Today I'm going to talk about Leviathan Falls. But first, who thinks I should be the referee in this new boxing match between Wings of Redemption and Boogie? How dope would that be? Two fat as fuck guys. 400-pound guys with a 300-pound ref. Anyway. What was it? Oh yeah. This book. This is the final book of The Expanse. Book 9. I've also read half of book 10, which I guess I'll talk about Memories Legion as well and sum up the series. This one I didn't really like as much. I guess I give it 4 stars. Like I said in the last book, the main characters have all aged like 20 years and they're all kind of tired and wore out and they all kind of want to die and quit and just like give it up. And, you know, there's all this talk about these old god type smoke monsters that are inside when they do the ring gate transfers, and this doesn't explain those guys at all. I kind of expected like, oh, we're finally going to find out about those aliens. Didn't find out about those aliens that much. Found out a little bit more about the first aliens that built the ring gates and all the proto-molecule stuff, but not a whole lot. That's how you got Detective Miller came back at the end to help him get into that station in the ring space, but yeah, Holden ended up sacrificing himself, big spoiler, at the end, and then Naomi and who else? Amos? Yeah, now. Oh yeah, I'll get to the end in a second. I don't want to spoil too much. So this book is mostly about this girl Teresa. She's the daughter of the guy from what's the name of that one place? That system? Laconians? The Laconians? She's kind of like the princess of this new empire that he's established, and they kind of fought back, and now they're not really as much as a control as they were, and she kind of escapes with Holden, I think, right? And she's on the Roxanante. So this woman, this Japanese woman named Tanaka, this is what this story is mainly about. She's kind of like a pervert, and she like fucks a lot of guys that are like below her rank and stuff, and like she gets sent on this mission to find the High Consul because he did something. He came back from his weird fugue state he was in. He's able to like teleport around now. But actually, he got into this ball spaceship and went to the station in the middle of the ring space. But he's like projecting his self in other star systems because he says like where isn't as well defined as it used to be or something like that. So he's like non-local. A lot of high science in this book. But anyway. So then she gets on a mission to find him and retrieve him. So her plan, she don't know where he's at. Her plan is to get his daughter back. So she's chasing the Rocinante around and doing a lot of cruel shit because she has like carte blanche to do whatever she could do to get him. They call it Omega status, and people start seeing how like crazy she is, and then like this thing happens where it was like making everybody go unconscious at the same time all throughout all of the star systems. They were losing time because these monsters on the smoke monster aliens were like fighting back and trying to like turn things on and off to figure out how they could fight them. And then they eventually got to where, oh, this was actually High Consul Duarte was trying to like make everybody into a hive mind and unite all of humanity in order to fight against those aliens. And then when he did that, Tanaka's memories were merging with people around her, and they were seeing like all the weird sexual shit she'd been doing. Or she was worried about it, and she starts freaking out. And then she like gets herself a psychiatrist. This is weird. And then like to make matters cool, Amos Burton, which is one of the coolest characters in all books. I'm gonna like do a best character video, I guess, pretty soon. He gets killed, but then he comes back in spectacular fashion because these like alien robots were repairing things, and they turned him into one of these gray-skinned, black-eyed people, kind of like the ones from the pits in Laconia. These 2 children that they've been doing experiments on. So now he's kind of connected to the proto-molecule like they are, and he can see kind of stuff that they're diving into this thing and trying to figure out the aliens. So he's pretty much immortal. So then he gets shot again, and you assume he's dead again. He just comes back. He's like, "Oh, sorry about that, guys. It took me a little longer." He's making a joke about it. Pretty much, they blew like a whole hole in his chest the first time, so you knew he's definitely dead. But then he just came back, and it's dope. Like even at the end of the book, it's like it goes up like 1,000 years into the future, and it's like all the gates get disconnected. So people that were like so many light years away, like 1,000 years later, they finally get back to Earth, and they're like, well, let's try Chinese to see if they know this old Chinese language we still have memories of. And Amos Burton's there, and he's like, sorry, my Chinese ain't so good. He's like, oh, you speak English? He's like, yeah. He's just been hanging out for 1,000 years on Earth. Pretty fucking dope. There's also a dog that floats around in the Rocinante a lot. That Teresa girl has a dog. That's pretty cool. And then Alex ends up leaving them to go live with his son and his wife that are on a different star system. He takes the Rocinante, and then Naomi and Amos take this other ship and go back to Earth. So, and then Holden sacrifices himself, and then, Avasarala had died earlier, and then Bobby sacrificed herself in the last book with a, antimatter bomb to blow up one of the ships, so... it came out pretty good, I guess. I mean, it didn't really end, though. It's like not enough explanation of these aliens. That's like the one I'm really interested in. I want to know how they did all that stuff and explain the science of it, but it's like... I guess that's not really what it's about. It's about telling a story. Anyway, Memories Legion. I've read about half of that, so can't really talk about some of the later stories, but the first one, Last Fight of Cassandra, was pretty good. I think that's about before they discovered the protomolecule on Mars. There was these ships that found this asteroid with ice on it. They were trying to make a bunch of money, and then they figured out there's a ship's been in the solar system this whole time. And then, let's see, the Drive. Drive was really good. That's about how the guy discovered the Epstein drive, and he ended up like shooting himself off into space. And the guy that played the actor from the TV show was really good that played him. And that's probably my favorite. And then, what was the one? Gods of Risk. That's one about Bobby's brother dealing drugs and trying to save this girl from the mob. And he ends up like paying her way out, and then he sees her. He gets like a good job years later, and he sees her married to some guy and pregnant, and she's just like, didn't turn out like you'd hoped. It's pretty sad. It was pretty boring too. That I don't really like that one. And then the Churn. The Churn was about Timmy / Amos Burton. There's another Amos Burton that Timmy took his name, so I can't really call him Amos Burton in this story because he's Timmy, and so that's the main thing about what makes Timmy cool. Is that he has Holden. James Holden is like this guy he looks up to, and he uses his conscience and substitutes in this empty space in his heart or wherever because he doesn't have any feelings. He's kind of like a psychopath or whatever you call it. People that don't have any conscience or whatever. So before he met Holden, he was trying to use this guy Amos Burton as that because he was just like the most powerful guy in charge. And he almost like shot his own friend, but then he decided not to, and he like kind of talked himself out of that, and he saves his friend, who ends up later in the show when the bombs went off, and he had to like save Peaches from the prison. He went to him because he's still like running the mob in Baltimore. So that's what that was about. It's about also he had this relationship with this old woman, and they would just kind of fuck each other. And Timmy used to be a male prostitute. It's kind of gross. That's Timmy Burton. He's he's kind of fucked up. Yeah, I haven't read the other short stories yet, but that's pretty much it. The Expanse TV show is great. Definitely watch the TV show. Read the books if you can. I mean, they could make more books. I've been reading The Fire and Blood that the TV show is based on. The prequel to the Game of Thrones, and I haven't gotten to the part where the TV show starts yet. I'm like 130 pages in because it's not like Game of Thrones. There's all this dialogue, there's a story, and it's like you can pretty much convert it into a movie or TV script. But Fire and Blood is just it's a history. There's no like hardly any dialogue or conversation unless it's like somebody in history says something really important and they quote them. So I don't see how they even like made a TV series out of that unless they just pretty much made it all up themselves. It's kind of weird how they did that. So if you wanted to do like another Expanse, you could just use that universe and just make a bunch of stuff up yourself. It would work because it's such a cool universe. Kamina Drummer, also one of the best characters, but she's not in the books. Like in the books, she's not that cool, but in the TV show, she's one of my favorite characters. Holly Gibney from Stephen King, also one of the best characters, and there's a new Holly book coming out in September this year by Stephen King. So I'm super hyped about that. Also, Ender from Ender's Game would be one of my main characters. Kvoth from Wise Man's Fear, Name of the Wind. But obviously, he's kind of like cheating because his whole shtick is that he's the most interesting person in the world. So it's not really like... Can't really say he's interesting because that's what he's meant to be. It's like the whole point of it. Anyway, hope I gave you something to think about. Also, I should be referring this boxing match.